In this video, we will be discussing how to navigate roles in Astra Schedule. Roles are how you grant a user permissions to do different things within the system, like scheduling events, changing room assignments for sections, and running the optimizer. To get to the Roles page, you can click to Settings and Roles under the Manage People subheader. There will be a list of default roles, and you can create additional roles that you need for your institution, as you can see that we have in this demo site. You can create a role from scratch by clicking Add a Role. But what I think is a great way to create a role is to start from one role and then clone it. So for example, if we wanted to start from the System Administrator role, we can click into the role and it will bring up the role form. The role form shows us the name and the description for the role, and we can also see the users in the role in a list here. You can see up in the top right corner is where the copy button is. This is where you can copy all permissions assigned to this role, which are down at the bottom of the page. Create a new name for the role and start from there. When you copy this role, it will create all those permissions and keep them all the same, but it will not add those users into that role. We'll go ahead and talk about the role permissions within the System Administrator role. All of our permissions are grouped into different sections of the application, like rooms, academic sections, and events. Rooms, academics, and events are the most commonly used permissions, as those are the most common resources used within Astra Schedule. You can expand each group individually, and you can also expand all of them by clicking the plus sign over here on the right-hand side. And you can also hit the minus sign to collapse them all. Let's look at them one by one. First, we're going to open up Rooms. Astra Schedule is ultimately, at its core, a room scheduling tool, so Rooms permissions are first. And we're going to talk through what our lingo is and what our edit pencils here do. We can see View Rooms here, and View Rooms gives a user access to view the room list. Just like View Events gives a user access to view the event list, and View Sections gives the user access to view the section list. To show you what that list looks like, under the Settings tab, I'm going to open up the Rooms list into a new tab. And you can see View Rooms gives a user rights to view this page. Now the next permission down is Edit Rooms. Edit Rooms gives someone permissions to click into a room record and actually make changes to everything within the form. They will have these Save, Save and Close, and Cancel buttons. If a user only has rights to view and not to edit, when they click into a room, they would only have a back button and they would not be able to make any changes. The permission underneath Edit is Delete. Delete is what gives the users these red X's here to delete a room. Now, deleting things out of Astra Schedule is not always possible, as once a room is associated to something, whether it's an event or a section, then you cannot delete that room. It is tied to something else in the database. What you can then do is inactivate a room, and we have another video on that. The next permission down is Request and Schedule. That does not pertain to the room list. That pertains to what you are requesting or scheduling a room for. For example, if you have Edit Events permissions, that gives you rights to create new events and to edit existing events. With that permission, if you also need to schedule rooms without asking someone's permission to use a specific room, you would want Edit Events permissions and Schedule Rooms permissions. If you are someone who can create events but only request rooms, then you would have Edit Events permissions and then Request Rooms permissions, and someone would need to approve the use of your room. If you have a John Doe faculty staff member who just needs to request events and request rooms, he would need this Request Rooms permissions and the Can Request Events permissions. So you can see that they work together. On the section side, one of our most common is Edit Sections, which gives someone rights to change the room assignment for a section, as that is the only thing we can write back to a student information system. So giving someone Edit Sections permissions and Schedule Rooms permissions lets them go in and change a room assignment for a section so that that can be pushed back to a student information system. Now with these permissions, you can see that we have edit pencils next to them. These edit pencils let us get more granular with the permission. So for example, if I have a building scheduler who can only schedule rooms in that specific building and only edit the rooms within that building, say keeping up with the capacities, updating the features of the room, then we can use this edit pencil to say, yes, they can view all rooms in the system, but we only want this user to be able to edit the rooms in the Adams Hall building. I can click OK here, and you'll see Adams Hall is now the profile added to this individual permission. For request rooms, we can leave all of that as all, but for schedule rooms, I'm going to click the edit pencil and choose Adams Hall here as well. This user now has rights to schedule sections into rooms in Adams Hall and to create events in Adams Hall. But if they are going to assign a room to a section or event that's outside of Adams Hall, it would go into an incomplete status with the room being in a requested status for someone to approve. That's kind of a workflow discussion as well, but here you can see how you can apply those permissions within the system. To remove a profile, all you need to do is click the X's next to the edit pencil, and it will default back to all. Let's move on past rooms, sections, and events to cover a few other things. Resources function exactly like rooms do with view, edit, delete, request, and schedule. Resources being equipment and services within Astra, which can also be scheduled and reported on, just like room usage can. We also have calendar permissions, and calendar permissions are used very easily in Astra Schedule by being able to assign certain activity calendars or scheduling calendars or scheduling grids to certain roles. You can click the edit pencil here and you can assign calendars to users by clicking the drop down here. And you can also make one a default. So for example, this user has rights to all athletic activities calendar, finals week, student calendar, and campus events calendars, but only the activities calendar is the default for this user. Same with the grid. If we click on the edit pencil, we can see the scheduling calendar is the default for this user, but this user also has permissions to the primary instructor's grid. People is how you can give someone access to update people records within Astra. This would be instructors, students, customer contacts, and users, who are also considered a people. And you can see view people give someone rights to view the people list, just like our other view permissions. And edit people give someone rights to create new people and edit existing people within the system. If you have someone who is an event scheduler who needs to update customers and contacts, things like that, they would need the edit people permissions because it also gives them rights to update the customer and not just the contact. Reports is very straightforward. You can give someone rights to view reports and subscribe to reports. Import and export gives someone rights to update the import and export jobs and to manage those. And then administration is a lot of what we're looking at right now. Managing the security, which is the roles in the system, creating a user, which we also have a video on, authentication settings, and so on and so forth. Home pages are also things that can be edited within Astra Schedule. Those are the first page that you get to when you come to Astra, and that gives you the manage home pages permission. The last three are dependent on your licenses and if you have those already installed within your system. But the bottom one specifically gives you rights to the room optimizer. If you ever have any questions on what do each of these permissions do, as there are a lot of permissions, you can always use our help site, which has very detailed information for each permission in the system. To navigate there, you can click the question mark and then click help, which will open up a new tab for you. And then you can search for roles and click the roles overview page. This will give you information on how roles work and how you can add a new role, just like we're going through. And then also there are permissions links on the left-hand side of the page, where if you need to see what the different event permissions are, You can click on the page. It will have the permission on the left-hand side and what it does on the right-hand side.